All right. Welcome to the Evergreen DD Intake and Eligibility Training Session. My name is Leslie Miska, and I'm the Office of Aging and Disability Services Information Services Manager. I will be leading today's training session. Next slide, please, Nikki. During today's training session, we will cover the following topics: an introduction to Evergreen, the contact form, how to create a person record, the DD Intake and Eligibility Assessment, offline forms, person history, progress notes, letters and docs, and the case management acceptance form. Next slide, please, Nikki. Prior to this training, you should have watched the Evergreen microlearning videos. If you have not yet watched them, don't worry, there's still time. They are available out on our Evergreen project website at maine.gov/dhs/EIS/Evergreen. These videos will provide training for the following topics: search, how to use the search function to access person records, staff, location, and organization records if your role allows. Dashboards. There are two different dashboards in Evergreen. One is for you, the logged in user or staff member, and the other is for the person record for the person that you're serving. There's a microlearning video on the person record itself, which is where all of the demographic and personal information is captured for each individual that we serve. Health information, which is a comprehensive collection of all the information such as diagnoses, medications, allergies, etc. Queries and notifications, which are two different tools that will help you manage your outstanding actions or work that you need to do in the system. Progress notes. If your role allows you to create progress notes, which for DD intake and eligibility staff, you do have the ability to create general progress notes. You can review that microlearning and it will teach you how to do that. And then attachments, where you can upload supplemental documentation to support the information that's being captured in Evergreen. So as DD intake and eligibility staff, you may receive several documents that you will not key into Evergreen, but you will want to attach to the person record. So we will discuss that a little bit today. Please note that we will not cover all of these topics in detail today, so you will want to make sure that you watch the microlearning videos if you haven't already, and you can always go back and watch them again as a refresher if you choose. Next slide, please, Nikki. You've been added to this training session in listener mode, therefore your line is muted. We ask that you type questions into the Q&A using the Q&A icon in your Zoom window menu, and we will answer as many of those as we can get to at the end of the slide presentation. All questions that are entered in will be responded to, whether that's live on the call if we have time, or outside of the call by posting to our frequently asked questions on our website. Next slide, please, Nikki. There are two different sections of Evergreen. There's the Adult Protective Services side of the system, and there's the Evergreen Person Record side of the system. Today, we're going to focus on the Evergreen Person Record side of the system because that's where our EIS functionality will all live. The Adult Protective Services side of the system has been live since June of 2020, and that's where our Adult Protective Services staff are collecting and capturing APS report data. It's important to discuss this because Evergreen is a shared system and the person records are shared. So our Adult Protective Services and Public Guardianship Conservatorship staff do have access to view the Evergreen person records, and they also potentially have access to edit some of that data as well. Next slide, please, Nikki. Some of the benefits of Evergreen include a very robust help center, including the ability to reset your own password, the ability to upload attachments to the person record, and also specifically to the DD eligibility form itself. The ability to print forms as you see them on your screen. All you need to do is use the global print function, which is pressing on the Control key and the P key at the same time on your keyboard, and that will open up your print window and it will print what you're seeing on the screen. You don't need to have a special printer-friendly option. The ability to run role-specific queries to see outstanding actionable items that you need to work on, as well as some role-specific reports that you can run. An enhanced person record with centralized data capture. So in addition to the regular demographic stuff that we're capturing at the person level, we're also capturing history and health information at the person record level. This way, it's all centrally located and managed by all the individuals that have access to edit that will be managing it in the same location. And we can use that data that's captured to display these common data points within forms rather than having the end users recapture that. So for example, a history record that might be captured during the DD intake and eligibility assessment by you, the DD eligibility coordinator, that gets added to the person record may be able to display directly on a comprehensive assessment for the community case manager to see rather than them having to recapture that information. Other common data points that might display directly on forms would be an assigned case manager, a program classification, a date of birth for the person, the list goes on. Evergreen also has standardized data capture. So we do have required fields. Those are going to be indicated by a red asterisk next to the field label and or a yellow bar at the beginning of the field data input field itself. We also have field level validations. So for example, like if you're in a date field, there's a date picker that you can use, or you can hand key the date in, but it does need to be in the appropriate format of month, day, year. So if you don't enter all numeric values in that order, the system will tell you that you've not properly formatted it and won't let you save that information until you fix the formatting. Forms also have built-in workflows and business rules to ensure that we're capturing data in a consistent way for better reporting. You can complete DD eligibility forms either online, meaning when you have internet connectivity, or you can use the offline form mode. And this is a feature that allows you to basically store the DD eligibility form in your browser cache, and then you can access it when you don't have internet access, populate the form, save it to your device in your browser cache, and then when you get back to internet connectivity, then you can go ahead and upload and sync that to the system. So we'll go through that today. And lastly, the other feature that I wanted to call out here for you is the system does size down for different computer and technology devices. So it will render on your laptop, a desktop computer, and all the way down to a tablet size device. It may also work on some smartphone devices, but we can't guarantee that. It has not been tested to appropriately resize for all smartphone devices. So not all functionality may be available at that size, but definitely from tablet size up. Next slide, please, Nikki. My dashboard is the first page that you as a system user or staff member will see after you log in. At the top of the screen is the top level persistent navigation bar. That's the white bar at the top. It has the Evergreen logo, which will always bring you back to this dashboard. And then next to that is the quick search, which is a keyword search field. You can type in keywords, hit enter, and it will provide search results for you. To the right of that are two icons, which are also related to search. The little counterclockwise clock icon will show you your most recent 20 searches so that you can just click on one and research the same thing without having to key it again. And then the magnifying glass with the plus sign in the middle is the advanced search. And you can open that up. It will pop up a window and allow you to put your keyword into a specific field. So if you want to only search last name field, you can, populate that in that field, and that will narrow your search results. And then depending on your user role, you'll have other icons across the top of that persistent navigation, which will be available to you throughout the site when you're logged in. I did take this screenshot in the context of a DD eligibility coordinator. So these are the icons that you should see as a DD eligibility coordinator. Underneath that persistent navigation is your dashboard. And these are the tiles that a DD eligibility coordinator should see when you log into the system. Starting at the far left at the top, the one with the orange background is called the announcements tile. This is a tile that's available to all users of the system, and it's managed by our vendor FEI Systems, and it will contain alerts that all system users should be aware of, like scheduled maintenance when the system might need to be down, office closures so that you know that maybe the help desk is unavailable, and then like if new guides or things like that become available, we may put a message out there to let you know that they're available and where you can find those. Below that is the My Notes tile. This is a feature in Evergreen that's similar to sticky notes or Notepad that you may have used on your laptop, tablet, or smartphone device. You can use this feature to start capturing a note quickly, a title, and then some note context, and it will save that note within the context of your staff profile in the My Profile area. And because as DD eligibility coordinators, you have the ability to create progress notes, you can later promote that note to a progress note under the context of a person record, if that makes sense and you want to do that. However, you can just keep them as notes on your My Profile. The tile in the middle here is the My Tasks tile. This is similar to Outlook tasks. If you've ever used that, you can create little tasks for yourself and they'll show up here until you indicate that you've completed them. And once they become overdue based on the date that you entered, it will show up under the overdue tasks, and it will also show you right on the all tasks tab that's overdue with the little message that you're seeing there. Also, supervisors can assign tasks to you under this feature as well. And then the tile to the far right that you're seeing here is the messages inbox. Messages is similar to email, but it's contained within Evergreen. So you can use this feature to communicate with other system users that might also be serving this person, rather than communicating outside of the system in email. And then that way, all of the correspondence related to persons that we're serving are stored within this database. So an example might be once a person has been found DD eligible and they've accepted their case management offer, you may want to message the community case management liaison to let them know that case management acceptance form has been completed and they can go ahead and make that assignment. And you can do that using messages. You can just create a new message, search for the CCM liaison that you'd like to send the message to, or Angela Faulkner as the supervisor, and send that along. Next slide, please, Nikki. Before we begin looking at the individual forms and processes that apply directly to the DD Intake and Eligibility Coordinator, I'd like to look at the high-level workflow. Next slide, please, Nikki. So this workflow will show you sort of how a person might traverse through the system under the DD intake and eligibility process. So starting in the upper left-hand corner, the referral will come into our office. From here, a contact form will be created to capture the referral information. That can be created by you as a DD intake and eligibility coordinator, by your supervisor, by an admin staff if they take a phone call for the referral. And then once the consent is received to complete the intake and eligibility assessment, you as an eligibility coordinator, or again, your supervisor, would do a search in the system to see if the person already exists, or create a new person record. So if consent is not received, then you just keep updating the contact form with follow-ups. But if consent is received, you do that search. If you don't find the person record, you can create one. And then once that person record has been created, you can create a DD intake and eligibility assessment and complete that either online or offline. And then you'll submit that DD eligibility form to your supervisor for their review. But after you do that, or right before you do that, you can also add additional information to the person record, like history, which we'll look at in a little bit, your progress note or progress notes. If you have like exploration and discovery items that you become aware of during your intake and eligibility assessment, you can upload attachments that you might have gathered during that assessment. You can also add person contacts to the person record and other person record demographic data that you might have captured during your intake and assessment. Then once your supervisor has a chance to review the DD eligibility form and determine whether the person is DD eligible or not, then the letter can be created using the letters and docs feature. The templated letter can be created using the letters and docs feature in the person's record. So if the person has been found DD eligible and you send them their eligible letter, and then they respond and accept their case management, then you can go ahead and create a case management acceptance form and document the acceptance and the case management agency that the individual has selected. And if they've also indicated the exact case manager, that can be captured in that form as well. And then you can communicate to the community case management liaison that the case management acceptance form has been submitted so that they can go ahead and create that case management location and or staff assignment. Next slide, please, Nikki. When a DD eligibility referral is received, it should be captured in the contact form. Next slide, please, Nikki. The user will navigate to the contact form from the top level persistent navigation menu. I've circled that up at the top center of the screenshot. Once you click on that contact form, it will bring you to the contact form list page, which is grayed out in the back of the screenshot. Please note that the contact form is located at the system level up in this top level persistent navigation because it is created outside of the person record context. It's created possibly before the person record exists, likely in this case. So again, upon clicking that, it will bring you to the contact form list page. From here, you'll use the plus new contact form in the upper left-hand corner of the content area, which I've circled and it's kind of grayed out in the background. This will open a pop-up modal like the one that you see in the middle of the screenshot. Any required to save fields will have a red asterisk to the right of the field label, and any that are required to submit or complete the form will have a vertical yellow bar to the left of the input field. For the DD intake and eligibility calls, you will select service area of DD and a reason of referral intake. This will then give you the appropriate fields to capture for your DD intake referral. Then you'll fill out the contact type. Phone, email, walk-in, fax, or other are your options. In this example, I chose phone. You'll provide the date of contact. It will default to today's date. However, that is editable. You can add an optional comment. You'll select a diagnosis or indicate unknown. You'll indicate whether the consent was received from the person, yes or no, and whether they have a legal guardian, yes, no, or unknown, or if they need protective services, yes, no, or unknown. Please note that a yes response to if they need whether they need protective services or not will display a screen, an on-screen alert letting the user know that if they believe a person is being abused, neglected, or exploited, or is currently at substantial risk of any of these, that they should call the APS hotline at 1-800-624-8404. And then you have a comment field for any final comments before you save. Next slide, please, Nikki. Upon saving, the system will navigate you into the form. From here, you can use the toggle in the upper right-hand corner of the content area to open the quick scroll menu. The quick scroll menu will display all of the sections of the form, which for the DD referral intake contact form include the contact form details, the fields that were populated in the pop-up modal, plus 2 additional sections of referral source and follow-ups. When I took this screenshot, I had already populated the referral source fields, which you can sort of see grayed out and circled in red on the left, bottom left, top left of this screenshot. If you have not received consent or you need to follow up on any of the other information before determining whether an intake and eligibility assessment will be conducted, then you can answer yes to the question of, is follow-up needed? Upon completing the follow-up, you can navigate back to the form and use the green plus add follow-up button to get the pop-up modal displayed here and capture the follow-up details. And then you'll indicate whether or not another follow-up is needed. So in this example, I captured the contact form and the referral source, but I had indicated that a follow-up was needed, yes. And so I came back in here, clicked on the plus add follow-up. It popped up this modal for me. I put in the date that I did the follow-up, the time that I did the follow-up, what my notes were from that, and then that it was by phone. And then I answered no to the do you need to follow up again question. This will indicate that this form is final and I don't need to do any more follow-ups. If I had said yes, then I would come back here again and use that plus add follow-up to add the next follow-up. Next slide, please, Nikki. Once consent has been received to complete the DD intake and eligibility assessment, you should search for and, if necessary, create a person record. Next slide, please, Nikki. To create a person record, you should always begin with a thorough search to verify that the person record doesn't already exist. This will help to ensure that we are not creating duplicate person records in the Evergreen system. You can complete a keyword search using the person's name and typing that into the quick search field and pressing enter on your keyboard. You may want to search on multiple spellings of the name as well, just to be extra sure that they aren't already in the system. Once you have determined that the person does not exist, you will use the plus add new person button in the upper left of the search results content area to go through the new person stepper. In step 1, you are minimally required to enter a first name, last name, date of birth, and either social security number or a number. And I've circled that at least one identifier from the below fields is required, SSN or main care number. And you can see that there's little red asterisk beside that, but it's not that both of those fields need to be filled, just one of those fields does need to be filled. Obviously, if you know both, that's great. You can enter both, but if you only know one or the other, that's fine as well. Then you will use the continue button to go to step 2. Next slide, please, Nikki. Step 2 will use the criteria that you entered on step 1 and return any possible matching records from the Evergreen system. Potential results will be delineated by a box with rounded corners. In this example, there were 8 possible matches. Each result will indicate how many and which of the 5 required fields from step 1 are matching with this potential record. In the first record of this example, there are 2 matching criteria, social security number and last name. Please note that the results will be displayed with the greatest possible matches at the top. For example, records with 5 matching criteria fields would be at the top, then 4, then 3, etc. You can use the open record link to the right of the result to be navigated to the person record if it is a match and that's the person record that you want to use. Or if you want to just verify that that's the person record before creating a brand new person record. Or you can use the continue button if none of the possible matches appear to be the correct individual. Next slide, please, Nikki. In step 3 of the person create stepper, the system will use your original criteria entered in step 1 to now match against the MIMS data, main integrated health management system data. Like in step 2, when it did the matches against Evergreen, any possible matches will be displayed. In this example, there were no matches found. However, if there had been, I would have been given the option to link to that record, which would create a new Evergreen person record using the MIMS criteria displayed and creating a database link that would allow MIMS eligibility, diagnoses, medications, and medical professional contacts to be continuously migrated to that record, as well as, eligibility, like financial and program eligibility. Please note that even if you do not find a MIMS match when creating the person record, the system will auto-link matching records each night. So if, for example, the MIMS record doesn't exist yet, this individual hasn't been determined financially eligible through OFI, you can still create an Evergreen person record. And then later, if they go through the OFI financial eligibility process and their record ends up in MIMS, MIMS will link to the Evergreen person if the name and date of birth and a number and or social security number matches. Next slide, please, Nikki. In step 4, you will be given the opportunity to make any final edits to your person criteria before using the Create button to generate the new Evergreen person record. And this, again, you'll only get to step 4 if there's no matching Evergreen record or there's no MIMS record that you want to use. So again, if there are no matches, you would make it all the way to step 4, and then you can make any final edits and use the Create button. Next slide, please, Nikki. Upon creating the person, the system will automatically navigate you into that record. Once inside of the person record, you will see the green person record banner just below your top level white persistent navigation menu. The green person banner will include the system assigned person ID and a calculated age based on the person's date of birth just below their name. In this example, the person, Leslie Testing, has an ID of 733 and her age is 63. Please note the primary language, guardianship conservatorship status, preferred name, and person status are all blank, indicated by the 2 short dashes above each label. This is because none of those data points have been captured and added to the person record yet. You can scroll to see each section of the person record or use the toggle icon in the upper right corner of the content area to open the quick scroll menu. The personal information is pre-populated from the Create Person stepper, and you will find green plus add buttons at the bottom of each section, which can be used to start adding content. Now I'm going to steal the screen share from Nikki and attempt to log in here and show you a couple of things. I am in a test environment, so please bear with me. Hopefully you won't run into any challenges here. The biggest challenge might be my ability to type. So I'm logged in as Dave Jefferson, who is our DD eligibility coordinator, and I'm going to search for my person record, which is Leslie Testing. And it gives me my matching result, and I just simply click on this row and it will navigate me right to Leslie's dashboard. This is the person dashboard. And then I want to click on this little record icon here in the primary navigation. And then I'm going to open up my toggle just because it's easier to navigate to things using this toggle. And I'm going to show you how to add a phone number. So I'll click on phones and the system will bring me right to the phones section. And I already have a phone number in here because I did this demo last week and I added a phone, but we can add another one. So I'm going to go ahead and add a phone type of home, and I'm going to put in a phone number. And I'm going to say that this is primary and save. So you can see here that it saved my new phone number record and it's indicating this is primary, and it actually removed the primary indicator from my mobile, which that one used to be my primary, but you can only have one primary phone. So the system automatically removed that and added it to here because I asked it to. I'm also going to show you the health information section really quickly. So this icon right below record is the health information section. There's allergies, devices and modifications, treatments, end-of-life orders, diagnoses, medications, and health insurance. And I'm going to go ahead and add a diagnosis here. And you can see I already have a couple, but I'm going to go ahead and add another one just to show you. That looks like, and you can search on ICD code or description. And since I already have we'll use this compression of brain. Maybe that's brain injury. I don't know. I'm not the expert here. But I can select the one I want. It will bring it in here. And then if this is a program qualifying diagnosis, like Down syndrome or something like that for developmental disabilities, you can go ahead and click this box and it will ask you which program is this making this individual eligible for. Since I selected compression of brain, just to be consistent, I'll use main care section 18. And then you just indicate who diagnosed this. John Smith, MD. Again, I'm not probably using good examples, but you get the idea. Diagnosis date, I can say 2000, January 3rd. So I just used the date picker so that it came right in the right format for me. Is this an active diagnosis? Is going to be automatically checked. If you're capturing something that's in a previous diagnosis that's no longer active, you can uncheck that. And then if you have any notes around it, you can also add those and hit save. And then it will go ahead and add that to your list of diagnoses. And these are sorted in, I'm not sure what order. I was going to say create date. It might be oldest. I guess the oldest one is at the top on this list page. So I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing and give the screen back to Nikki so she can give us our slides back. Now that your person has been created, you can create the DD intake and eligibility assessment. Next slide, please, Nikki. To create the DD intake and eligibility assessment, you'll click on the Forms and Plans icon in the green primary navigation menu on the left side of the screen. I've circled that icon in red and the background appears white because I was clicked onto that page when I took this screenshot. Clicking on the Forms and Plans icon takes you to the All Forms list page. From here, you'll click on the plus new form button in the upper left-hand corner of the central content area. This will open a pop-up modal like the one you see in the center of this screenshot. From here, you'll choose the category of assessments and the form DD eligibility. And then you'll click Next to move to step 2, where you'll confirm that you're sure you would like to create this form. Next slide, please, Nikki. Upon creating the form, the system will navigate you directly into the form. The form will be in view mode. This will be indicated because there's a gray bubble in the middle of the edit mode icon in the upper left-hand corner of the content area. The form's status will be in progress as the content has not yet been populated, and the completion requirements will show an orange dotted circle indicating that there are required fields which need to be filled out in order to submit the form. Again, that's because you just created it and haven't populated anything yet. All sections of the form will default to being collapsed. Then you can scroll manually and use the caret icon before each section header to manually expand or collapse them, or you can use the expand all icon to expand all of them at the same time. You can also use the toggle in the upper right-hand corner of the central content area to open the quick scroll menu. Once open, you can click on any section label in the quick scroll menu to be automatically taken to that section. Next slide, please, Nikki. Once the form has been created, you can use the Appointments widget icon in the form menu to add the assessment meeting to the person's appointment calendar. After clicking on the Appointments icon, the system will open the Appointments modal. From here, you will use the plus new Appointment Meeting button to get the Create modal, which is displayed in the center of this screenshot. In the Create modal, you will select your category. In this example, I selected meeting. And that's what you'll want to do if you're creating a DD eligibility assessment. You'll want to use the category of meeting. However, other options include primary care, dental, vision, specialist, or other appointment. Then you'll provide a subject, meeting date, meeting start and end time, the meeting location, which will be the business name and address, and any notes, and then you'll hit save. Next slide, please, Nikki. After adding the appointment to the calendar, you can begin populating the form by clicking the edit mode icon once. Obviously, there may be some time between that. You may create the form, put the appointment on, and then when the appointment occurs, then you might come in and start editing this. So you'll click that edit mode once. This will turn the editing capability on, and that will be indicated by the orange bubble in the middle of the edit mode icon, as you can see in the screenshot in the upper left of the content area. Beginning at the top of the form, you'll enter the referral information, which was captured in the contact form and includes referral type, receipt of consent, date of consent, referral date, and source. Then, using the page navigation at the bottom of the screenshot, you can simply save the page you are on or choose Save and Next and keep moving throughout each section. Please note that the arrows should only be used to move through the form if you haven't entered any content which needs to be committed to the database. If you're in edit mode and you type something into one of the fields and then you just use the left or right arrow button, it will not save what you've typed into that field. So if you've typed something on a screen, you want to use Save or Save and Next to ensure that it commits to the database. Next slide, please, Nikki. Radio buttons will offer a clear option, like the one that's shown to the right of the guardianship verification question, to allow you to remove a response once it has been added. So maybe you went to the screen and you clicked on yes, but you actually hadn't verified guardianship yet, so you weren't sure whether or not the guardianship had been verified, but you don't want to say no. You can definitely use clear and it will remove that radio button. Next slide, please, Nikki. In the school education section of the assessment, you will find a conditional question related to the person's current school status, as well as a multi-add list option for adding as many previous schools as needed. Next slide, please, Nikki. If the response to "Are you currently attending school?" is yes, then you will be presented with the conditional questions displayed to the left of this screenshot, which include name of current school, current grade level, anticipated graduation date. If the response is no, then you will be presented with the conditional questions displayed to the right, highest grade completed. Next slide, please, Nikki. Regardless of whether the person is currently attending school or not, you should capture all of the previous schools that the person attended. To do this, select the plus add previous school button to get the pop-up modal for populating the first field set. Then use the plus minus icons in this section to add or remove schools. In this example, I added 3 previous schools. If I accidentally added one of these schools and I wanted to remove it, I'd use the minus icon next to it. If I want to add another one, I use the plus and it will give me a new set of fields. Next slide, please, Nikki. The 2 yes/no special education questions each have a corresponding text field which will accept up to 10,000 characters each. A yes response to "Have you ever had a psychoeducational evaluation?" will require content to be added to the evaluation details text field, where the note field associated with the special education 504 plan question is optional. Next slide, please, Nikki. Similar to the special education questions, the 2 yes/no psychiatric psychosocial questions also have corresponding text fields for capturing any evaluation details. These fields will be required for yes responses. Next slide, please, Nikki. The last section of the form is the intake paperwork section, which includes a single yes/no question about whether the intake documents have been discussed and provided to the person. So you'll still provide the same intake packet that you're currently providing to the person today. Even after answering that question and saving, the completion requirements will still show the orange dotted circle indicating that there is an outstanding requirement. And I opened up the completion requirements window in this screenshot so you could see where the orange circles were. I hadn't hit save on intake paperwork. That's why there was an orange circle on that one. So truly it was just the acknowledgement signatures that was missing. So in order to add the acknowledgement signatures, you need to do that as an attachment to this DD eligibility form. This can be done by clicking on the attachments widget icon. Next slide, please, Nikki. Upon clicking the attachments icon, the system will open the Add Attachments pop-up modal. From here, you can click the plus new attachment button to get the new attachment modal, which is being displayed in the center of the screenshot. You'll select the Choose File button to search for the file with the wet signatures that you had previously captured, scanned, and saved to your device. In this example, I've uploaded a file called Evergreen Training Attachment.docx. Then select the Acknowledgement Signatures category. There's another option under that category, which is called Additional DD Eligibility Documents. So if there are other documents that were captured as part of the DD Eligibility Assessment that you want to attach, you can use that category. But for signatures, you need to use this category. And fill the remaining required fields before saving. Next slide, please, Nikki. After all of the required fields and the acknowledgement signatures have been uploaded, the completion requirements will display green check marks like the one you're seeing in the screenshot. Now you can click on the status dropdown and use the submit option to set the form to pending review status. Next slide, please, Nikki. Once the assessment has been submitted for review, it will show up in the DD Eligibility Supervisor's pending review query, where they can click to navigate directly into the form and change the status to start review. Similar to all other forms, all sections will be defaulted to collapsed, and the supervisor can use the Expand All button to open them all at the same time or manually open one at a time if they prefer. The supervisor can also use the toggle icon to open the quick scroll menu for more efficient navigation. Next slide, please, Nikki. Upon selecting Start Review, the form status will change to Under Review, and the completion requirements will reset to the orange dotted circle, indicating that there are fields which need to be populated in order to complete the form. A new section will appear at the bottom of the form and the quick scroll menu called Eligibility Determination. This section is where the supervisor will document either DD eligible or not DD eligible. If the program qualifying diagnosis has not already been added to the health information section of the person record by you, then an alert will display like the one in the center of this screenshot, indicating that no program qualifying diagnosis records are available. With a yes response to the question, does the individual have a qualifying diagnosis, the system will present a message like the one in the zoomed box at the bottom of the screenshot with a thick black border. The message says, please ensure qualifying diagnosis has been added to the person record, followed by a button that says Open Diagnosis, which, when clicked, will open a new browser window and take the supervisor to the health information diagnosis subsection of the person record to capture the qualifying diagnosis. Next slide, please, Nikki. After capturing the qualifying diagnosis, the supervisor can indicate whether the diagnosis began before the age of 18 and provide the evaluation details. The zoomed in box in the center of the screenshot has a list of the evaluation types that they can choose from. Then there's an example to the right of that for the adaptive functioning evaluations. There are also corresponding pick lists for both IQ evaluation and mental health evaluation as well. IQ evaluations include WISC, WAIS, Stanford-Binet, Cattell, Other. Mental health evaluations include Autism Spectrum Rating Scale, Gilliam Autism Rating Scale, pervasive developmental disorder, behavior inventory, and other. The supervisor can use the minus or plus buttons to remove or add as many evaluations as needed. Next slide, please, Nikki. Once all of the required fields have been populated, the completion requirements will display green check marks as shown here. The supervisor can then use the status dropdown to indicate DD eligible or DD not eligible to match the selection made in the assessment section. Next slide, please, Nikki. A selection of DD eligible will change the assessment status to DD eligible with a date and comment entered by the supervisor. The assessment status will trigger the system to update the person record status in the green person record banner to populate with DD eligible as well. Next slide, please, Nikki. The DD eligibility assessment is one of two forms which can be checked out for completion without internet access. Next slide, please, Nikki. The offline feature allows the user to complete a form or assessment without internet access. While you're at the office or another location that has internet access, you should navigate to the DD eligibility custom list page and check the form out. The custom list page can be found under the filter icon, that upside down pyramid hamburger icon to the right, upper right of the content area. From here, you'll click on the ellipses icon next to the assessment that you want to complete out in the field and select checkout. And you can do more than one. So like if you're going to dispatch from your home office or the physical office and you want to do several assessments out in the field and you think you might not have internet access, you can check out more than one form at a time, assessment at a time if you'd like. The system will then present a confirmation pop-up modal like the one shown in the center of the screenshot that's circled in red. The very first time that you ever check a form out for offline use, you will also receive the create encryption key pop-up that's shown inside of the black box at the bottom of the screenshot. It will only show up the very first time. And this encryption key is your password that you're going to set in order to access your offline forms. And you'll use it every time. That key or password will have no expiration, and therefore it is valid until it ever needs to be reset. Currently, the key can only be reset by FEI Help Desk. So if you forget your password or your key, you will have to reach out to the FEI Help Desk and they will need to reset that for you. Please note that once the encryption key is initially set, this create encryption key pop-up will never appear again on checkout. Next slide, please, Nikki. After saving the encryption key, the system will display two success messages like the ones that are being shown in this screenshot. The messages will let you know that the offline resource or form has been downloaded successfully and that the record has been checked out. This will lock the assessment from being able to be edited while it's checked out. That way, people aren't editing it that have internet access and you have it out on your browser cache and you're waiting to populate it in the field, and then we might have some syncing issues if that were the case. To complete the checkout process, you will simply click Done. Next slide, please, Nikki. After completing the checkout process, the user will be automatically directed back to the DD eligibility custom page, where the record will now display that lock icon next to the form ID. This indicates that it's been checked out. So you can see in that first row, there's a little lock icon there. Once you're out in the field to do your assessment, you can open your laptop browser, click on your user icon in the far right-hand corner, your My Profile icon of the top level persistent navigation, and select the offline forms option from the drop-down menu. Next slide, please, Nikki. Upon selecting the offline forms option, you'll be brought to the offline forms page where you'll be presented with the encryption key pop-up modal. This is where you'll type your encryption key in the box and then hit save. Next slide, please, Nikki. After saving the encryption key, the system will present you with a list of forms that you had previously checked out. So in this example, I'd only checked out one record, but if you checked out multiple, you'd see all of them here. Above the records that are checked out, the offline DD eligibility record for Leslie testing, you can see that there is an offline forms menu. The options include opening the record, syncing the form, and checking the form back in. To capture data while in the field, you'll select the row of the form that you would like to edit and then use the open record button to open that assessment. Once you're back at the office or at another location with internet access, as indicated by the network status of online in the top level persistent navigation, that green icon that was telling me that I was in internet range, I was online, then I can sync the form. Please note that that sync feature can only be performed when you are connected to the internet, and that icon will not display if you do not have network connectivity. After syncing the assessment, you can check it back in before clicking on the profile icon and selecting online home. Next slide, please, Nikki. There's also an option to cancel the checkout if that's needed. Please note that this should only be done if the form was not used in offline mode, as this will break the lock without syncing the offline version of the form to the database. So this feature is only a fail-safe if something happens, you know, a staff person checked out the form and then had an accident, or you know, was fell ill and had to be out for medical leave unexpectedly, and we have to complete the assessment, and we're quite certain that they haven't captured any data that needs to be recovered, then this feature could be used. But otherwise, it should, if it's been checked out, it should be synced back up and then checked back in. Next slide, please, Nikki. After submitting the DD eligibility assessment, the eligibility coordinator may have additional person history and or progress note, exploration and discovery content that they want to add to the person record. And after completing the eligibility determination, the coordinator or supervisor will want to use the letters and docs module to populate the appropriate letter template to print and mail out to the person. I'm going to again steal the screen share from Nikki and show you a couple more things here. And this time I'm gonna log in with my super user access just to make sure that I have all the functionality that I need to show you this quick demo. So this might give some additional access than what the eligibility coordinator role would have. So please bear with me there. I'm going to navigate back to Leslie testing. I'm going to go to the record. And actually, I don't need to go to the record. I'm going to go right to history here. So we looked at record, we looked at health information. I'm going to go to this history icon. So here's where you might capture, you know, as DG eligibility coordinators, when you do the initial intake assessment and eligibility assessment, you typically learn some information about the person's history. That can all be captured here in the person history area. You use this little plus new history button. There are 8 top level categories. These match the 8 charting the life course domains that our DD and BI staff are using for the person-centered planning process. So you'll select the appropriate category. I already did one for health and wellness in my last one, so we'll do one for home and housing. And then depending on your category, it's going to give you an appropriate set of types under that category or sub areas. So for home and housing, living arrangements / options, environmental safety, home adaptations, and daily routines. So I could say home and housing, daily routines, and then here in your description section, there'll be some appropriate ghost text giving you some guiding text about what you might want to capture for history under this category and type combination. So for home and housing daily routines, this section is intended for, but not limited to, documenting the following historical details: personal routines, eating, bathing, grooming, oral care, dressing, etc., shopping the person has routinely done, what and for how long. And also consistent, this little light bulb icon has the same information that's in this ghost text, because as soon as I start typing in here, my ghost text goes away, and we wanted you to be able to continue to refer to that. And then once you've added the history item and you click save, it will add the history item to that person's history. So as many different history items that you gather, you can add here. And then you can also add progress notes. So you have the ability to add general progress notes. So you click on the progress note icon, new progress note, you'd select general note. You can give it a title. You can say intake assessment, change the activity date if it wasn't today. You can provide a description here. Contact type, you did an in-person visit, so you'll probably want to do that. Or if it was a virtual video, you could do that as well. You can put in 1 hour, 30 minutes. I'm not sure how long these usually are. Hit save. You can tell whether it's a billable contact or not and the different activity type. So you can say visit, home, or you could say other, actually, and say, I don't think we have one for intake assessment, and then you can hit save. And because this was an in-person meeting or a virtual video meeting, you're also going to get the safety assessment section. This is observations that you might have had during that meeting, whether you observed any factors affecting vulnerability or any factors affecting safety. And you can select one or many, or you can say none apply. So I just said none apply to both of those. And that's going to bring you into the progress note. And from here, you can see that these are the sections that I filled out in the note stepper, but there's also this exploration and discovery section. This is what you might also want to use to document additional information that you learned during the intake assessment process. So this is a multi-add list. You can add as many of these as you want. Again, this is going to follow those same domains. But you might learn that the person wants to become employed. So you can select employment and career planning, and you can say this is a goal that the person has. They want to become employed. And then you can type into here, person wants to get a job. And then you can say that that came from the person if it did, or their legal guardian or whoever. It will default to a start date of today. That is also editable. And if this is a current goal, you can leave the end date blank and just hit save. Any of these exploration and discovery items that are captured here will be available for the case manager that gets assigned, or care coordinator that gets assigned, or in this case, I guess it would be case managers. And then they can run this exploration and discovery report, which will give them all of the different exploration and discovery items that have been captured for that person prior to them going and doing their comprehensive assessment and then the person-centered planning process. So it's a really great feature. I'm going to now show you the letters and docs area. So all the way down here at the bottom of your persistent navigation is the letters and docs area. From here, there's a bunch of templated letters. So if you, once the eligibility assessment is completed and you need to send the fillable eligible or not eligible letter, you can just select those here. I already did the fillable eligible, so I'll do the not eligible today. And then for this one, you don't need a program. You just need intake and eligibility, not eligible, and then you hit save. And the system is going to go ahead and ask you what person and the address. Oh, there's no address on file, so this is probably not going to let me actually create this, but let's just see what happens. You can preview the letter. Maybe it might be because I don't have the address. But pretend that I had an address here, and then you click preview. It will show you the letter, the templated letter with the details that you've pulled in here. And then you just can click save and it will save that. Yeah, it's telling me that I'm missing a parameter. I don't think I can do let me try the fillable eligible real quick. I don't think that one will work either. Again, I don't need program. Oh, this one will work for us. So it pre-populates with today's date, who it's going to. These are their guardianship representative here. Respond by date. These are also editable if you need to edit those. And then you can just click preview and it will generate the templated letter for you. And you can see where it filled all the content in. You can make sure that it looks good. And if it does, then you can hit save and save that letter and it will save it to the person's record and then you can download and print it. I'm going to let Nikki take the slides back. After sending out the case management eligibility letter, the coordinator or supervisor should create a case management acceptance form to track the date the letter was sent, any follow-ups that have been completed, and the person's response. Next slide, please, Nikki. To create the case management acceptance form, you should navigate to the All Forms list page by clicking on the Forms Plans icon in the green primary navigation and using the plus new form button in the upper left-hand side of the content area. You will select Case Management Acceptance Form under the Assessments category. After clicking Next, you will select Section 13 from the Program dropdown, which is currently the only selection that's available, and hit Save. Next slide, please, Nikki. Oh, I guess I had a screenshot for that. Next slide, please, Nikki. Upon saving, the system will navigate you into the form, which will be in a status of in progress as it will not yet be populated. Just like other forms, all sections will be defaulted to collapsed, and there will be an expand all option as well as a toggle icon, which will display the quick scroll menu. The first section of the form will be system populated with an on-screen case management acceptance message like the one displayed in the screenshot. You should then populate the date the eligibility letter was sent. Next slide, please, Nikki. If no response has been received within 30 days, you can navigate back to the form and add a 30-day follow-up, details by selecting the type of 30-day, entering the date of the follow-up, adding any comments related to the follow-up, and saving. This process can be repeated for the 45 and 60-day follow-ups using the plus icon in the follow-up section to get a new set of blank follow-up fields. Next slide, please, Nikki. At any time after the eligibility letter has been sent and the coordinator is unable to make contact with the person, the case management acceptance form can be set to a status of penned to allow for additional time needed to obtain a response. This can be done by clicking on the status dropdown and selecting penned. Next slide, please, Nikki. Once contact has been made, the form status should be updated back to in progress by clicking on the pending status and selecting the resume option. Next slide, please, Nikki. If the person chooses to decline case management services, then the case management selection should be updated to reflect that case management was not accepted by the person or guardian, the date the services were declined, and any comments before saving. Next slide, please, Nikki. If the person chooses to accept services, then the case management selection should be updated to reflect that case management was accepted by the person guardian, the date that the services were accepted, that case management is equal to yes, the type of case manager that the person is selecting, the case management agency chosen, and if the case manager is known, that can also be entered, and then any comments before saving. Next slide, please, Nikki. Once all sections have been populated, the form can be completed by clicking on the status dropdown and selecting complete. The eligibility coordinator should then use the messages feature to let the community case management liaison know that the case management form has been completed and that the person assignments can be made. Next slide, please, Nikki. So we have reached the end of the slides. If anybody has any questions, go ahead and make sure that you get those typed into the Q&A icon that's on your Zoom window. Also might be hidden under the more 3-dot ellipses. In the meantime, I'll give you a few next steps while we're waiting for any questions that might need to come in. So the next step is for you to be able to practice on your own in our sandbox training environment. We will be sending out individual emails to all of our EIS active users with the URL to the sandbox training environment, the set of login credentials that you should use. Now, keep in mind that these credentials will have more access than your production account will have. And that's because we want you to be able to not have to rely on other user roles to move forms through their workflow. Like, we don't want you to have to wait for your supervisor to have to go and do the review on a form. We want you to be able to get all the way through. We want you to be able to add and edit things that maybe somebody else would have to add, like a community case management liaison having to add an assignment or something like that. So you will have more access than your production role will have. You will also, and also please make sure that you do not reset the password on that login. This is going to be a shared login. So all of your colleagues will be using that, and some other individuals as well, like community case managers, et cetera. So we want to make sure that you don't reset the password on the test credentials that you receive. If you have trouble logging in, just reach out to us and we'll try to help you with that. You will also be assigned your own unique person record. This person record will be yours to do whatever you'd like in order to familiarize yourself with the system. So you can go to that person record, you can add demographic data, edit it, delete it. You can go into the history, health information, progress notes, forms, just add things, edit them, try out everything that you might normally do in your day-to-day routine to familiarize yourself with the system. We will be sending those out on Friday of this week. It may take us into early next week to get them all sent out because we do have about 2,700 users that we need to send individual emails to. So it will take us a little bit of time. In the meantime, you can go out to our project website at maine.gov/DHHS/EIS/Evergreen. You can rewatch the informational webinar series that we did in October and November. You can watch the microlearning videos or rewatch those if you've already seen those. Those videos are linked from the training page of our website. So you will need to navigate to the web page that's listed here and then click on training in the left menu. And that will bring you to the microlearning video hyperlinks. And then below that is a table of all of our registration links for technical training and business process training. And as we are able to, we're going to be posting the recordings from these training sessions out there. So you could rewatch this training or the one from last week once that gets posted out there, or other training sessions that we've conducted that maybe were not specific to your role, but you're curious to watch. You can also read through our frequently asked questions on the project website. And there are a lot of them out there already, and we will be continuing to update that from all the questions that come in through these training sessions. Also, again, probably not super relevant for your role, but if you have any reportable events that you might have had to enter, or progress notes that you've entered into the system that maybe are not completed, we are asking that those get completed by 5 p.m. on Friday, January 12th. If they don't get completed, they will still migrate into the system. They'll just be migrated in a completed status, so you wouldn't be able to edit them once they get over there. Other forms like DD eligibility forms will migrate in progress. Person-centered plans will migrate in progress. Behavior management plans, things like that. Those will migrate in an in-progress state and can be edited once you get into Evergreen. If you haven't already, you might want to sign up for one of the Q&A sessions that's being offered the week of January 8th. These are 2-hour-long sessions that are being offered by our vendor, FEI Systems, and they're truly just an hour for us to take questions. This is a good opportunity after you've been through all of your technical trainings and you've had a chance to navigate around in the sandbox training environment to bring any final questions that you might have before we go live and try to get the answers to those. You can also email questions at any time to us at evergreen.dhhs@maine.gov. We are trying to monitor that email box and respond to those questions either directly or by posting a common question to our frequently asked questions on our website. I still don't see any questions in the Q&A, but I will say that Nikki has added to the meeting chat here a link to our project website, our evergreen.dhhs@maine.gov email address, as well as a link directly to the training page of our website. So if you want to grab those out of the chat, in case you want to refer to any of that stuff, please go ahead and do that now. I want to thank all of you for joining me this afternoon for this training session, and we look forward to supporting you in the new system. Thanks, everybody. Have a great evening.